The NBA playoffs are definitely a time where stars need to be stars and dominate on the biggest stage in order for their teams to have any chance of accomplishing their goals, but even the best of the best can't secure wins all by themselves. To continually advance in the playoffs, you need guys around those stars to step up and exceed all expectations in lesser roles to gain an edge, and in turn, the role players that do that boost their value tenfold, and the next time they're up for a contract negotiation, they see much bigger offers than they previously would have gotten. That's exactly what we'll be discussing in today's video, as we will be going through the 5 role players from this year's postseason that earned themselves massive paydays with their play when it mattered the most. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button and liking the video, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first role player boosting his value a ton in the playoffs this year is Wallace of the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you were to only be following the NBA playoffs by scanning box scores after the fact, you likely wouldn't even bat an eye at Wallace or consider what he brings to the table. But the more you watch Thunder basketball, the harder it becomes not to be ridiculously impressed by this young talent. Wallace is the type of role player every single NBA team dreams of finding, because he knows exactly what he has put on the court to do, fully buys into his role, he plays his ass off, and he always seems to make the right decision without trying to do too much. He's not out there to shoot the ball much, but when the opportunities come, he will confidently put a shot up. He's a smart cutter trying to get himself into position for easy chances when the defense focuses too much on the stars around him. He's a terrific secondary playmaker who is always looking to make the extra pass and set his teammates up, and most importantly, he is a dog on the defensive end, subbing in and immediately matching up with the opposing team's best guard. He generates turnovers, grabbing at least 1 steal in all but 1 playoff game so far this year. He's amongst the playoff leaders in deflections per game, and the energy he plays with ignites everyone around him, even if he's not stuffing the stat sheet. The next role player we'll be discussing today, boosting his value a ton this postseason, is Jonathan Kuminga of the Golden State Warriors. Kuminga's a very surprising inclusion in this video because there's no way anyone would have guessed he would make an appearance based on his regular season ending and how his playoff run began. With the Warriors playing red-hot basketball to close the season out, after the acquisition of Jimmy Butler, Coach Steve Kerr's patience for Kuminga ran thin, and eventually he placed Kuminga in the doghouse, removing him from the rotation entirely. With this being a contract year for Kuminga, that was a pretty rough look, and no doubt would have influenced the kind of offers he would have received in free agency this summer if things continued that way. But then, in their second round series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Steph Curry unfortunately went down with an injury, which forced their hand, resulting in Kuminga being inserted back into the rotation, and he took that opportunity and ran with it. In games 2 through 5 of that series, Kuminga became the team's go-to scoring option, and he genuinely played some very impressive basketball, despite the team losing out. In those games, Kuminga averaged about 24 points, shooting 55% from the field and 39% from 3, including a 30-point game in Game 3. Those are impressive numbers for anybody in a playoff series, let alone a guy who was in the doghouse just 1 week prior. So even though there are some valid concerns with him that got him put into that position to begin with, he definitely showed enough to make teams believe his undeniable talent is worth taking a swing on. The next role player who has been boosting his stock a ton in the postseason this year is Nesmith of the Indiana Pacers. Nesmith emerged as the sharpshooting talent that he was always expected to be from when he was drafted after having been traded from the Celtics to the Pacers, and the fact that he was discussed as just a throw-in during that trade gave him a huge chip on his shoulder. He's been vocal about how he wanted to prove everyone wrong after that trade went down, and with the Pacers back in the conference finals for a second consecutive season, he's taking his game to another level throughout this entire run. He's scoring about 16 14 points per game in the playoffs, but most notably is how ridiculously efficient he's been. He's of course out there to knock down threes, but he is hitting 54% of his threes in the playoffs so far, and it all culminated into a heroic Game 1 of the conference finals against the Knicks, where he almost single-handedly rescued the Pacers from a loss that was all but guaranteed at one point. Down 14 points with about 3 minutes left in the game, Nesmith hit 5 threes in a row when all hope was lost, getting them right back into it and eventually winning the game in overtime, and his heroics that he displayed are usually what's expected of a team star, let alone a role player. Nothing could stop him from getting his threes off. He knocked down quite a few tightly contested and off balance, and guys that are completely unfazed by big moments like that are always highly coveted on the open market, so even though Nesmith has 2 more years left on his current contract, he should be able to secure a pretty significant contract extension in the near future. The next role player that boosted his value a ton with his play in the playoffs this year is Christian Braun of the Denver Nuggets. Braun was already having a huge breakout season after having taken over for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope as the team's starting shooting guard, but the fact that he continued that ascension into the playoffs solidifies the fact that he's going to be an incredibly sought-after role player when it comes time to negotiate a new contract. Braun only has 1 year left on his current deal, so it would probably be in the best interest of the Nuggets to lock him into a contract extension sooner rather than later, because if they let him hit the open market, he may get some big offers that they can't match. Braun's work as a cutter alongside Nikola Jokic makes him so dangerous, and then when he's able to convert as efficiently as he is, making 58% of his shots from the field this year, it becomes icing on the cake. The moment that landed him on the list today came when their season was on the line, down 3-2 in their series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, and in Game 6, he went out and dropped 23 points in a win to help keep the team alive. They may have lost the series in Game 7, but Braun still had an efficient 19 points in that Game 7 when nobody else could get anything going, and with Braun, it's not just about the things that show up in the box score. He plays with non-stop energy, always moving around on offense. He's an outstanding rebounder for a guard, crashing the glass hard. He's a reliable perimeter defender, and he does all of the little things a winning team needs from a player that won't be on the ball as much as the team's stars. And finally, the last role player that boosted their value in a big way this postseason is Luke Cornet of the Boston Celtics. Cornet isn't asked to do much when he's out there, with guys like Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis playing far more significant roles ahead of him in their front court, but in Game 5 against the Knicks in the second round, after having lost Jason Tatum for the year and Kristaps Porzingis dealing with an illness, their backs were up against the wall and Cornet came out of nowhere for a dominant performance. Offensively, he went 5 for 5 from the field, scoring 10 points, with some massive dunks and big moments. He reeled in 9 rebounds, and he had 7 blocks, protecting the paint like a man possessed, swatting away anything that came his way, which is actually the second most blocks in a playoff game in Celtics history. Cornet proved that if he needs to play about 20 to 25 minutes, he can do so and make a real positive impact, and with him hitting free agency this summer, he's going to get a lot of interest from anybody in need of a backup center. He was playing for $2 million this season, but after a showing like that, when his number was called, he will assuredly see some offers blowing that number out of the water in a contract offer. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these role players and how impressive they've been. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.